Okay, so we got an apple tree here. This has been pruned multiple times in its life. We've got a couple of problems, I guess, a couple of structural problems that we're going to try to correct today. And I'm just going to briefly go over 8 steps that I use to kind of walk me through each part of the tree and how to take care of a tree like this. So I always start at the bottom and I work my way up. Part of the reason for that is if I'm going to make any big cuts, I need to do that early on. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the tips and then have to end up making multiple cuts on the same branch. So the first thing we would normally do is we'd inspect the tree for suckers. If there were any suckers, I would remove those. And then the next step is to remove the lower 2 branches. And this is just a step that happens while the tree is growing and maturing. We want to bring that canopy up to a level, and you decide where that level is. In this case, I'm going to remove these 2 lower branches just because we have some redundancy here. And so if I bring this up, that will remove some of the branches that are actually getting eaten by deer out here on the tips. And so that would be my step 2. There's no suckers, but I am going to remove the lower 2 branches, so that's step 2. You can see these branches are long and skinny, and they're just overextended because they're not getting the sunlight they need because the rest of the canopy is shading it. So I'm going to clean up some of these little stubs that should have been pruned back a little bit closer when the tree was younger. So suckers, lower 2 branches, and then we want to remove the leader. This is a cut that should have been done years ago. Better now than later. So we'll go ahead and remove that. Sometimes these bigger cuts are hard to make because we've invested a lot of time and money, energy into this tree, and it's kind of like removing your child's finger. If you were a surgeon, you wouldn't do it. You'd have one of your colleagues do it. So sometimes if you get a professional in here, they're not afraid to make the hard cuts. Okay, lower 2 branches and leader is step 2. Once that's been done, I'm looking for water sprouts. And what a water sprout is a long, spindly branch that grows straight up in the air. Find my clippers. And this is an example of a water sprout here. A couple of more here. And there's a few more in here, but we'll kind of get those as we go. Here's another water sprout. And here's another one. That's step 3 is water sprouts. Once the water sprouts are removed, we're looking for the 4 Ds. Dead, damaged, dying, or diseased branches. 4 Ds. I don't see a lot of disease in here. There's a little bit. One way to tell if a branch is dying or diseased is the leaves are still hanging on. Another way is you'll see that the bark is dry and crinkly, and if you snap it, it's brittle. Most of this branch was alive, but there's just a few dead tips here. Here's a damaged branch right here. You can see broken. And the bark here is what I was describing earlier, where it's dried out, it's not smooth, it's got these little wrinkles in it, and then this is brittle. No moisture in there. Okay, number 5 is crossing branches. We got a lot of branches crossing up in here. We got a little tangled mess. So I'll grab the ladder. I'll prune out some of that crossing wood. we got a lot of parallel crossing branches. And we may do some more, but that's step 5. Step 6 is tipping. If we get fruit way up in the top here, it's gonna be really hard. I've got a tall ladder here. I'm not gonna be able to harvest that. It's gonna be really hard to maintain that. Treat the tree if you need to for pests. Cover the tree for birds. It's just too high. So step 6 is we come in here, we tip back all the tall branches, and when we tip a branch, we cut it back to a fork or a node, a bud, pointing in the direction that we want the tree to continue to grow. Step 7, these are lion's tails, and what a lion's tail is, and I'm just going to use this one as an example. If this branch had no living nodes, no spurs, or they were all damaged or eaten by deer, and the only thing that was living was one little bud at the tip, that would be a lion's tail. It's smooth, and then it has a little bit of growth on the tip. I want to remove that type of wood. The other thing I'm looking for is just some little spindly branches, something that's not going to support the weight of the fruit. I need to remove that or tip it back to a point where it can actually support the weight of apples. So that's step 7. And then step 8 would be for me to stand back, do a 360-degree walk around the tree, and just make sure that it's aesthetically pleasing. Usually from close up, you can't really tell if you're done. You need to stand back and look at your work, and at that point, you can tell if it looks nice. And those are the 8 steps of pruning. All right, so we completed all 8 steps to pruning this tree, starting with the suckers, lower 2 branches and leader, water sprouts, crossing branches, 4Ds. We tipped the tree back. We removed any spindly branches or lion's tails. And then as we walked around the tree, we tried to make this aesthetically pleasing, have some balance to it. But in the process, we left all the spurs so that the sunlight can now penetrate this canopy, and any fruit hanging from these spurs should receive enough light to fully mature without dropping to the ground prematurely. So it should be a nice productive tree moving forward. Go to our website, fruittreecare.info, fill out a form, and we'll send you some more information on how to prune fruit trees. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe.